It's very difficult to, the topic is very wide and it's very difficult to start on that topic, but as you know, we architects normally explain our buildings and then walk away, so for me it was challenging to really think about what that could mean. We have to keep in mind, as Eric mentioned, that only a minimal percentage of buildings worldwide is done by architects and engineers. And only a minimal percentage of those is done by architects and engineers who actually are responsible towards our environment and have the necessary knowledge. So the direct impact we have is very minimal. The immediate impact is very minimal. That leads to the role of the actually product we design, the so-called leading by example. And if we look in architectural history a little bit, whenever there was a new topic, and here the Eiffel Tower is a very good example, whenever there was a new topic, it made itself very prominent in the development of buildings, of architecture. And most of the time, or very often, and architects might not like to hear that, it was actually a technical invention, an engineering invention that influenced the architecture. And the more iconic these first or few buildings were, the more important became the topic and developed in the further architecture. And here the example Eiffel Tower is very obvious. And Centre Pompidou, I left a couple of buildings out. And then I think it sort of reached a peak, the high-tech architecture in the Hong Kong-Shanghai Bank. And after that, postmodernism came, new stuff came, and it sort of disappeared more or less. It almost became Baroque in this building, this topic. And there are more examples. You know that, Sapporo. Very interesting, the Fuji Pavilion. The first really big-scale inflatable building. And the idea of this inflatable building at the time was a very content-driven idea. It was about mounting, reusing the building, which actually didn't work in real life. They had to cut it down later on. But it was about how do you do it? Light materials. And then it was a great idea. It developed further and further. And again, it was an engineering idea. And now it's almost trivial. You know, you'd see it in all the train stations, shopping malls, everywhere, this material. But it was, in the beginning, very iconic, and still some iconic buildings appear. And if we go on with that, and Professor Schleich knows that very well, these tensile structures, Montreal, Olympic Park, and so on, if we go on. The point is, I'm trying to make here, buildings either technically or programmatically had to be very strong in the beginning. The idea had to be manifested in the architecture. Yeah? And we could go on like that. These were all buildings and ideas that had followers and are some of them till this day valid and have been refined and refined and refined by architects until architects and engineers thought they mastered the subject, and then it became an integral part of our all days architecture generally, and we moved on to new borders. What does this mean? Green icons. So far, we have a lot of buildings that are branded green. We have a lot of buildings we claim that they are sustainable, and they probably save some energy, and they are probably also green. But I think we are still far away from really finding an idea and a design icon. And the point I'm making is, design is very important to transport an idea, to make it understandable for everybody. As long as we don't have really great icons, that really implement the idea. We are all, I would say, we are still on the search. What does this mean for the impact in architecture? Yeah, all the sustainable discussions. Yes, we can do solar panels, great. We can do solar chimneys, good. Earth ducts, more difficult, nobody sees them. But we can do a lot of this stuff, and solar shading and all that. But so far, I personally have no idea what the iconic idea of sustainability is. Like the Eiffel Tower or Centre Pompidou, iconic ideas for high-tech and engineering architecture were. So we are still in search, and this is more or less what I would like to end on. Where are our sustainable icons? You know, I know there are buildings that are claimed LEED Platinum. We have done one. It's great. But is it really getting people excited? Wow, I need this plaque? It's a good sales gimmick. But I'm not sure if it really, considering that probably 0.05% of the buildings built worldwide are really engineered towards a more sustainable environment. Are these 0.05% of the buildings really exciting enough to get everybody on board, to really look for? Are there any crystal palaces and Eiffel Towers? Including our own buildings, I haven't seen many so far. Thank you very much for your time.